S.S.S. Shalach, Tov Shin Pei Hey. So while I was preparing the shir this week, I realized that it's very, very apropos, the theme of this week's shir and the current events that's going on in the world. So just to speak a little bit about, because I know these shiurim are sometimes watched on YouTube or whatever years and years later, so we got to just remind everybody what's going on, that every day, every single day now we're seeing open, not even hidden, open nisim, open miracles in Eretz Yisrael, the fact of what Hashem gives the Jewish mind, what they're able to pull off, what they're able to do with the help of Hashem, things that nobody in the world thought could be done. And Hashem's fighting the battles. There's no more Hamas, there's no more Hezbollah, there's no more Syria. We're on to the last stand over here in Iran. And the bottom line is, there's one thing that they all want. And what they all want is they all want a piece of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, this small little land, 1/75th the size of Iran, and they have to fight with them. They want Yerushalayim, they want Hebron, they want Tel Aviv, they want everything. They don't have enough room of their own, and whatever they have of their own, they waste their time with. But the bottom line is, everybody wants. There's a special reason why everybody wants Eretz Yisrael, and maybe we can understand also with tonight's shir, we'll understand a little bit why people who live in Eretz Yisrael, and why the land of Eretz Yisrael is zeicha to so much siyata d'shmaya, and so many nisim, and so many open miracles right in front of our eyes. In the beginning of the parsha, as we know, famous, fascinating episode of the Meraglim. And the Meraglim were sent into Eretz Yisrael for what reason? They're sent to Eretz Yisrael to scout out the beautiful land and report back to Moshe Rabbeinu, report back to Klal Yisrael of all the beautiful things that they saw in Eretz Yisrael, which leads us also, sometimes we don't appreciate enough the beauty of Eretz Yisrael, so Hashem has to take like tens of thousands of people and get them stuck there, so for a while they could study the beauty of Eretz Yisrael and feel the siyata d'shmaya of Eretz Yisrael. But unfortunately, the Meraglim, when they returned, when they came back, they spoke negatively of, they spoke lashon hara about Eretz Yisrael. And as we all know, speaking anything negative about Eretz Yisrael is a very, very serious matter, and it's taken very seriously by Hashem. Hashem takes it very seriously. It's Hashem's land, Hashem's backyard, so to speak, and you speak negatively against Eretz Yisrael, it's frowned upon, kaviyachol, by Hashem. The Mechilta in Parshas Boy tells us the simple reason why Eretz Yisrael, one of the big reasons that makes everything behind Eretz Yisrael special, is that the Shekhinah resides in Eretz Yisrael. So when he asks you, where's the address of the Shekhinah? The address of the Shekhinah is in Eretz Yisrael. How do we know? So Mechilta tells us, we see that, we read by Mincha on Yom Kippur, in the Haftarah we read the Haftarah of Yoina. And we know that Yoina ran away to Tarshish. He ran away, why? Because Yoina felt that in Chutz La'aretz there's no Shekhinah. That he wouldn't have to say anything to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wouldn't have to explain himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not speak to him in Chutz La'aretz. So we see right there from Yoina, Yoina was a Navi, and Yoina knew that if he left Eretz Yisrael and he went to Chutz La'aretz, it would just be that way. He would not be able to speak to the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah resides in Eretz Yisrael. And Nesivos Shalom tells us that it's a raya from here that there really is no actual Hashras HaShekhinah in Chutz La'aretz. A Yid, a Jew only has shleimus. You want to be a complete Jew, you want to have shleimus as a Yid, that only happens when you're in Eretz Yisrael. And as we've mentioned many times, we mentioned from the Kuzari, a beautiful, beautiful Kuzari. And we've spoken about it on a number of occasions, but really we have to put it in here too. The Kuzari says that if you want to plant grapes, person wants to plant a vineyard. So if you want, you could go to your backyard here in New Jersey. You could plant a vineyard, but it's not going to thrive. They're not going to take grapes from your vineyard to make some chashuv wine, some wine that be an expensive wine, an exquisite wine. That's not happening in your backyard. Well, where's the optimal place to plant grapes? We know there's a few places in the world. First of all, in Eretz Yisrael, in Shomron, you see that there are hills and they plant grapes over there, and there's so many wineries around there. In the Golan, in Eretz Yisrael, go to California. There are places in California. There are places in the countrysides of France. Why? Because you have the mountainside, and it's the right climate. It's the perfect place to plant grapes, and that's why and you could speak it over with the Herzogs, you could speak it over people. That's why certain places in the world are very sought after to have the grapes from there to make the best wines in the world. Says the Kuzari, once you know that, he said, that's a Yid. That's a Yid. A Yid could live anywhere. A Yid could live in Florida. You could live here. You could live in Florida. You could live in Europe. You could live in Australia. You could live everywhere. And you could be Shomer, Torah, Mitzvahs, anywhere. But the Kuzari says, just like the grapes on the mountainside, just like grapes only grow in the optimal place, in that climate, in that place, so too a Yid can only thrive completely if he's in Eretz Yisrael. You could be anywhere in the world, but you only thrive when you're firmly planted in the perfect climate and in your vineyard, which is Eretz Yisrael. And that spark of the ultimate godliness, the ultimate feeling and closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that makes us complete is only found, it's only there in Eretz Yisrael. And the Medrash HaChatoiv on Tehillim says that Hashem created 70 nations of the world. And we all know the 70 nations, right? And out of the 70 nations, who did Hashem pick? Hashem picked us. We should feel great about that. 70 nations, Hashem picked us. Hashem created 7 days of the week. And we know Hashem chose one day, Shabbos, to stand out, to be that special day. Hashem also, says the Medrash HaChatoiv and Tehillim over there, Hashem also created 7 continents. There are 7 continents on the world. And out of all the 7 continents, Hashem chose one place. Hashem chose Eretz Yisrael over all of them. The Rambam, famously, the Rambam paskins in Hilchos Malachim, Perek Hey. It's hard to say this Rambam while we're sitting here in Lakewood, New Jersey. But the Rambam paskins that it's usher to leave Eretz Yisrael and to go to Chutz La'aretz, except for extenuating circumstances, for a shidduch, to learn Torah. If a person can't find a shidduch in Eretz Yisrael, a person for some reason can't learn Torah where he is, so then there are, quote, excuses that you can leave Eretz Yisrael. But the Rambam paskins that, everybody here has to ask their own posik and deal with your own conscience, and myself included, but that you have to live in Eretz Yisrael. You cannot leave Eretz Yisrael. And the Rambam continues and he says it's actually better to live in Eretz Yisrael in a city that's mostly Goyim than to live in Chutz La'aretz in a city that's mostly Jewish, that has mostly Yidden. And once again, everybody deals with it in their own way. But going out of Eretz Yisrael, the Rambam says, it's hard to say this, but the Rambam says going out of Eretz Yisrael is like worshipping Avodah Zarah. Okay, now we're starting this after Avodah Zarah today, everybody, so we'll get to delve a little bit deeper into exactly what the Rambam might be speaking about. But so says the Rambam. So the Ramban in Vayikru Yudches, the Ramban says that when we say that there were 7 continents, and we're speaking about chosen things now, right? We're speaking about Shabbos, speaking about Klal Yisrael. The Ramban says that when we say that Hashem chose Eretz Yisrael, it means one thing. It means that Eretz Yisrael is special because it's not given over to any Sar, Umoishel, no Malachim. Eretz Yisrael is being run on a daily basis by HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvoidoi u'ba'atzmai. And that's part of what we spoke about at the beginning of the year. Everybody's saying we're looking at these open miracles every single day, what's going on to Eretz Yisrael. So to us, that seems very strange. But after we learn what we're learning here, that's day-to-day life in Eretz Yisrael. If you sit back and a person realizes the hashkacha, how Eretz Yisrael even today exists, and how every enemy on every side of Eretz Yisrael will just put down Shaloi al pi derech hateva, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu every single day, and there are many, many more Mamarei Chazal along those lines. To the people in Eretz Yisrael, says in Nesivos Shalom, the people in Eretz Yisrael, every day of the year is like Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, we know that Hashem is done on Rosh Hashanah. What does this person need for the year? What will I give a person for the year? In Eretz Yisrael, it works differently. Every single day, the Shefa comes down. Pasuk tells us, Merishis, Hashanah, Yad Achri Shana, with the Mefarshim tell us that every day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the beginning to the end of the year, is saying, what do they need? What does Eretz Yisrael need today? Do they need more food? Do they need more crops? Do they need more missiles? Do they need more Siyat Shmaya? In this department, Hashem, every single day, is looking at Eretz Yisrael because every day is a Rosh Hashanah for Eretz Yisrael. And that helps us a little bit now understand why the punishment of the Meraglim on our Parsha was so severe. In our Parsha, even though the Torah tells us, Salachti kidvarecha, we know from Slichas we say it, but in this week's Parsha, Salachti kidvarecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I forgive you. But nevertheless, even though they were forgiven, none of those people, besides Kalei Yeshua, there were a couple of people, but none of those people were zoicha or allowed to go into Eretz Yisrael. Tshuva did not help in this case, as it did by the Egel, by the Chet HaEgel. There was tshuva, they were forgiven, and it was a kapara. But here, tshuva actually did not. Hashem said, Solachti kidvarecha, whatever, however that's translated, however that means. But what it does mean, what we have to see is, for speaking badly about Eretz Yisrael and everything that it stands for, even tshuva did not help. Why? Because they were kaifer in the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. They didn't believe that all the shefa, any bracha in the whole world begins from Eretz Yisrael. All the shefa in the whole world comes from Eretz Yisrael only. And once the Meraglim, once they got people to deny that fact, they can never receive it. They can never get Eretz Yisrael, and they can never go, they can never enter Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the Eretz Chemda, the coveted land of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one place in the entire globe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose as his, and he chose to give it to Eretz, chose to give it to Klal Yisrael. So now, as we said, the Parsha, the current events, everything together to understand how, first of all, we have to be in the spot. We have our job to do. We're sitting here tonight. We're sitting here on Alel Shishi. We're learning together. The learning that we do should be a schus for Achenu B'nai Yisrael who are sitting on the front lines. It's not a joke. And people are running to shelters every night, and it's very scary. And people, unfortunately, Rahman al-Islam, have been killed. People are getting hurt. We have to do our job. We have to do our job because the people in Eretz Yisrael are representing us. They're doing what's right. They're doing what they should be doing. The least we could do is to help, to have them in mind on the Shabbos Mevarchim. Make this Shabbos a little better. Let's learn a little more. Let's have them in mind. And Emir Hashem, very, very soon, we will be joining all of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. Amen.